Welcome back to Compassionate Cultures, the podcast. I'm Rebecca Hemmings, your host, and today we are diving into a topic that is crucial for all organizations, right? Certainly if you class your organization as one that's being modern, and that's what we're talking about for the next 10 minutes or so. We're talking about the importance of and the benefits of using inclusive language, having an organization that is compassionate because it knows how to utilize its language to make everyone feel that sense of inclusion and belonging. Okay. I'm also going to talk about the dangers of neglecting it because ignore this at your peril, I should say, and many organizations have felt the burn from not having ensured that the environment is one that is conducive to inclusive language. So let's get started. All right. So language is such a powerful tool. I remember hearing the term, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But actually, that's not true, really. Everyone has a name. We've been given names, right? And our names are important to us. They're very important to us. Have you ever heard of explicit egotism theory? It's an unconscious bias, which basically states that as humans, we are quite narcissistic by nature. We love ourselves, and especially our names. We're really connected to our names, but more than the fact that it's because we're a bit narcissistic, it's because it forms part of our identity. Okay, and nobody likes to have their identity questioned. So names are really important as an example. All right, and I'll go back and talk about a specific incident which is to do with names afterwards. But inclusive language, how do I define it? Inclusive language is language that is free from words, phrases, or tones that reflect prejudiced, stereotyped, or discriminatory views. I'll say that again. Inclusive language is free. Is language that is free from words, phrases, or tones that reflect prejudiced, stereotypes, or discriminatory views. Okay, and it's essential in promoting, knowing what inclusive language is. It's essential in promoting a workforce that is equitable, diverse, and inclusive, where everybody feels in a place where everybody feels that they belong. Okay, so what are some of the benefits of inclusive language? Well, by using it, you're sending a clear message to everybody that we want you here. We value you. We value you as an individual. You are welcome here. Okay, you are respected. All right. And so when you're not using inclusive language, it does the opposite. It basically says, we don't really want you here. We're kind of like just tolerating you. You're not valued and you're not respected. In fact, we're going to disrespect you. Okay? That's the meta communication when inclusive language is not used. Okay? And so this language needs to be used regardless of people's race, their gender, their religion, their level of ability, their sexual orientation, and so on. Okay? Or any other marginalized identity. Okay, so again, I will just bring home the point that when you use inclusive language, it says that, we like you, we really value you, and that, it's just like when somebody just really notices. Let's say that you had a really tiny pair of earrings on, and maybe they're quite special to you, and somebody notices, oh wow, they're quite unique. Do they mean something? And, all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, wow, they're really taking an interest in who I am. It's that kind of feeling where you just don't feel like you're just another number. Okay. Another benefit of inclusive language is that it encourages teamwork and collaboration, because then people aren't afraid of being faced with biased language, discriminatory views. There's a sense of trust there. They feel as though they can show up to work with this particular team, and they're not going to be subjected to microaggressions or having their name pronounced incorrectly or any of that sort of stuff. All right. Now, what I also want to talk about are some of the dangers of neglecting inclusive language, because we've got to talk about that, right? It's very real. I'm going to give you a specific example in a second. But failing to use inclusive language obviously can have very serious consequences. It can tarnish the reputation of an organization. You know, people like to talk now. People like to talk online. They like to out companies. They like to talk about what's going on. But then there's also websites, news websites that will report what's been happening in organizations, and especially when there's been litigation. So let me give you an example of a recent case. Now, this was in June 2024, okay? June 2024, all right? So a British Indian bathroom salesman was awarded £9,329 by his employer for racial harassment at work. Now, why was this? This was because a colleague had repeatedly called Vivek Taneja the wrong name. Okay, and Vivek's name is a very important one within his Hindu culture. It's very important to him. And so because his feelings were hurt as a result of his name being constantly mispronounced, yeah, he went to litigation and he got his money. And so this was taken by HR, taken from HR magazine. So it states in that article, as Vivek Taneja has a name that is linked to his race, by repeatedly misnaming him, the tribunal found that this constitutes unwanted conduct related to race that violated his dignity. So, you know, some people will just say, oh, it was just banter. Banter's not going to cut it anymore, whether it's banter based on someone's sexuality, their gender, their race, their religion. This can go to litigation. Like, you don't want it. Okay, and this is the importance, because so many more people are aware of diversity, equity and inclusion and their rights and what should be done within organizations. And dare I say it? Do I say it? I'm going to say we are in a cost of living crisis currently at the time this podcast episode was being made. I'm not saying everybody does it for this reason, but it could be a reason to kind of make people think, well, actually, I might have just kind of left disgruntled, but actually, I'm going to bring the solicitors on board, you know? So how is your organization making sure that employees know that this type of banter is not okay? It really isn't okay, okay? Well, what you want to do is to create, moving on, a truly inclusive environment, right? And I talk about this all the time. So, you know, what I suggest you do if you're really serious about this is take the time to go through many more of these episodes, okay? But just to give you an overview, of course, education and training is key, all right? Training people on what constitutes inclusive language, what's okay to say, what's not okay to say, what's the modern terminology, okay? And also talk about the impact of their words. It's really important to understand that it's not a case of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words do hurt. I mean, there's loads that it can lead to, but trauma based on discrimination is a very real thing. People feeling as though they can't or don't want to show up to work. It can lead to stress or a whole range of mental health difficulties. It's not cool, it's not okay, it's not nice, okay? And then it's about providing them with the tools to enable them to communicate inclusively. I'll give you an example, kind of coming off not coming off the point. I'll come back to what you can do, but just to give you an example of recently I went into an organization and the man on the desk said, oh, hello, love. Okay, love, just sign the sheet, love. I was thinking, love. And, you know, I could have said, actually, could you just please call me by my name? I could have, but like with many microaggressions, because that's a microaggression based on my gender, you know, you think, well, if I say this, it's gonna create a rod for my own back. You know, I don't want word to go around that she's a difficult person. But actually, it really bothers me that was said. What do I do? And I suggest, again, you go back to an episode on microaggressions. I've done quite a few to explore some of the ways that you deal with microaggressions. But that was just an example of, you know, what a gender-based lack of knowledge around inclusive language looks like. Because I'm pretty certain that this man wasn't calling men love. and it could be a woman that's done it. I don't like being called darling or hun, all those kind of things. And I know, again, it's based on my gender, anyway, moving on. It's not about me. So number one, make sure you educate and train employees. Number two, really important, review and revise policies. So make sure that all policies, handbooks, communications, job specs, job adverts, they're all checked for inclusive language, okay? Because again, you could be communicating, you could be offending people through your language and not understanding that's what you're doing, or you could be using very old terminology that is no longer used because it's been deemed problematic. So have all that checked. And by the way, we deliver a DEI document review service, okay, where we'll check all your documents within a day and we'll give you recommendations all based on that. So make sure if that's something you're interested in, you get in touch. 3, lead by example. So leaders, you have to lead by example. So you need to do the education and the training in order for you to be a role model and model what inclusive language looks like, okay? You can't expect employees to do it when you're not doing it yourself, okay? Or you can't expect employees to be, again, using inclusive language when you're not quite sure of the importance of it or the impact of not using it. So you need to have that education as well. Encourage feedback. So, conduct surveys, have listening groups, or your employee resource groups have space for that. And, a suggestion box or so on. But obviously it's important that you act upon what's said. A lot of marginalized people are really, really paranoid. No, that's probably not the right word. They feel done to. They feel as though they are very much a tick box exercise or part of a tick box exercise because they're constantly being asked to fill in surveys and nothing's ever done about what suggestions are made. So take action, all right? Build that trust, take action. And finally, I'd say celebrate diversity. When you celebrate diversity, again, you're showing people that they are respected. It offers opportunities for people to learn about other people's cultures and therefore do even increase their inclusive vocabulary, okay? So that's it really. So inclusive language is so much more than just being politically correct. It's about saying to the people in your organization, I see you, I value you, you are a respected teammate and I want us to work together. Okay, it enhances overall team performance. It helps the brand, and dare I say it, it helps to prevent all those litigation issues. Trust me, you don't want them. All right, so that has been this episode on inclusive language. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, let me know what you thought about the episode. And if you've got any questions, feel free to ask questions and get in touch with us directly at strawberrywords.co.uk if we can help you with any of this. Thank you. Bye.